She wasn't born royal. She didn't even wear a tiara on her wedding day. And yet today, Queen Sonja of Norway owns one of the most meaningful royal jewel collections in Europe. Some of her treasures date back to Empress Joséphine. Others were gifts from czars and British monarchs. A few were created especially for her, modern, daring, and deeply Norwegian. But each of them carries more than beauty. These jewels hold the legacy of queens before her, the trials of war, the memory of exile, and the quiet strength of a modern monarchy. In this video, we'll explore Queen Sonja's royal collection, not just as a display of elegance, but as a living history of a family, a nation, and a queen who once had nothing and inherited everything. Before we begin, please support my channel by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons. Thank you. So, who was this woman who would come to wear such treasures? Her story begins not in a palace, but in a comfortable home in Oslo. She was Sonja Haraldsson, the daughter of a successful cloth merchant, living a life far removed from royal protocol. When she met Crown Prince Harald in 1959, it was the beginning of a romance that would test the very foundations of the Norwegian monarchy. For 9 long years, their relationship was kept quiet, away from the public eye. The reason was simple, but profound. The king, Olav V, was deeply opposed to his son and heir marrying a commoner. In those days, it just wasn't done. It felt like an impossible situation. But after nearly a decade, Crown Prince Harald made a stand. He presented his father with an ultimatum, one that could have ended the dynasty. It would be Sonja, or he would not marry at all. Faced with the possibility of an empty throne, King Olav relented. And when Harald and Sonja finally married in Oslo Cathedral in August 1968, the nation didn't just accept her, they celebrated her. It was seen as a victory for love, and it signaled a new, more modern era for the Norwegian royals. But her new role came with a unique and immediate responsibility. You see, Norway had been without a leading royal lady for quite some time. Harald's mother, the beloved Crown Princess Martha, had passed away tragically in 1954. His sisters had married and were living more private lives. So when Sonja joined the family, she stepped into a void. She wasn't just a new princess. She was, in effect, the new First Lady of the nation. And with that role came access to the royal vault, a collection of treasures that had been quietly waiting for a new generation, a collection that tells the story of empresses, queens, and a Europe that no longer exists. So let's begin with the grandest of them all, a parure with direct ties to Napoleon's court. The first and most magnificent of these is the Norwegian Emerald Parure. It is, without question, the grandest set in the family's collection, a breathtaking suite that immediately commands attention. The tiara itself is a masterpiece of early 19th century design, with its strong, symmetrical lines, square-cut emeralds, and diamond scrollwork. It comes with a complete matching set, a stunning necklace, a pair of large drop earrings, and 2 brooches. This isn't a parure for just any occasion. It is reserved for the highest level of state events, royal weddings, coronations, and banquets for visiting heads of state. When you see Queen Sonja wearing the emeralds, you know you are witnessing a moment of great historical significance. And the history is truly remarkable, though its precise origins remain a bit of a wonderful mystery. There's no single confirmed story of who first owned these emeralds. One popular theory suggests they may have been made for Empress Joséphine, Napoleon's first wife. The style certainly fits that era, resembling pieces from the great Parisian jewelers. However, other historians point to a different original owner, Josephine's daughter-in-law, Princess Augusta of Bavaria, Duchess of Leuchtenberg. We know for certain that the parure belonged to her at one point. The trail then becomes much clearer. After Princess Augusta's time, the jewels traveled through her descendants, a testament to the intricate web of European royal marriages. They eventually came to Scandinavia with Josephine's granddaughter, another Joséphine, who became the wife of King Oscar of Sweden and Norway. For a time, the parure graced the Swedish court. But its journey to the modern Norwegian royal family is a story of profound personal significance. The emeralds were eventually inherited by Princess Ingeborg of Sweden, a key figure in the family whose daughter Martha was to marry Crown Prince Olav of Norway. When World War II broke out and Norway was invaded, Martha and her 3 young children, including a little Prince Harold, had to flee. On their way into exile in America, they stopped briefly in Sweden. As they were about to depart, Princess Ingeborg handed her daughter a package. Inside was this emerald parure. It was meant to be more than just a beautiful heirloom. It was an insurance policy, a tangible asset of immense value, to be sold if the family faced financial ruin in a foreign land. Thankfully, it never came to that. The jewels were kept safe, and when the war ended, they returned to Norway with the royal family. Today, the parure belongs to King Harald, who inherited it directly from his mother, Martha. So you can imagine, from the very beginning of her royal life, Sonja was entrusted not just with a piece of jewelry, but with a symbol of survival, resilience, and deep family love. But the emeralds weren't the only treasure with a link to Napoleon's court that awaited her. There was another, a classic diamond tiara of incredible delicacy and grace, a piece that feels almost like spun light. This is known as Queen Joséphina's diamond tiara, and its history is just as fascinating, though it tells a different kind of story, one of inheritance and the quiet, steady passage of jewels between relatives. It belonged to that same Queen Joséphine of Sweden and Norway, the granddaughter of the famous Empress. You can truly see the French style of the early 19th century in its beautiful design, a cascade of intricate diamond florals and laurel wreath elements, all set with incredible lightness. It is a romantic, almost poetic piece. After Queen Josephina's death, this tiara began a winding journey through the Scandinavian royal houses, a perfect example of how these heirlooms move across borders. It was first inherited by her granddaughter, Lovisa, who had married into the Danish royal family and became Queen of Denmark. From there, it passed not to the next queen, but to her unmarried son, Prince Gustav. He cherished it, but having no children of his own, he looked to the next generation. When he passed away in 1944, he left the tiara to his beloved niece, Crown Princess Martha of Norway. And so, this exquisite diamond piece also found its permanent home in the Oslo vaults. It's another of the great historic jewels that Queen Sonja has now been wearing for more than half a century. You'll often see her pair it with a magnificent set of diamond pendant earrings, which have their own equally rich story, one we'll touch on a little later. While the grandest tiaras in the collection have their roots in imperial France, another significant part of the Norwegian jewel vault tells a very different story, one with direct ties to the British royal family. This is the legacy of Queen Maud, King Harold's grandmother. Born a British princess, the youngest daughter of the future King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra, Maud brought with her to Norway a collection of jewels that was both personal and deeply English in style. The most important of these was her magnificent pearl and diamond tiara. It was a wedding gift to Maud in 1896 from her parents, and it was a truly spectacular piece, crafted by the crown jeweler Garrard. With its graceful arches of diamonds topped with beautiful pearls, it was a classic of its time, but also versatile. It could be worn in its full, grand setting, or as a smaller, more delicate pearl fringe. It was one of Queen Maud's favorites, a constant presence in her official portraits and at grand occasions. And when Sonja became crown princess, this tiara became one of her most worn pieces as well. There are wonderful photographs of her in the 1970s and 80s, wearing both the full tiara and the smaller fringe version. It was a jewel that connected her directly to the first queen of modern Norway, and it seemed to suit her perfectly. It really became one of her signature tiaras for many years, a jewel with a beautiful past and, as it would turn out, a very dramatic future. But Queen Maud's collection contained other treasures that showed a more personal and perhaps even playful side. One of the most interesting is a diamond circlet, which is often called the Maltese cross circlet. This piece also came from her mother, Queen Alexandra, who had it made as a lighter, more modern alternative to the heavy George IV state diadem. It originally featured 4 diamond Maltese crosses alternating with 4 fleurs-de-lis. When Queen Maud inherited it, she had the fleur-de-lis removed, perhaps to make it look less like its famous British counterpart. It's a fascinating piece because of its adaptability. And this is where we really start to see Sonja's own creative approach to royal jewelry. she has had the circlet altered, and most often she wears just the simple diamond bandeau base on its own, a chic, understated look. Occasionally, she reattaches 3 of the 4 crosses to the front, creating a more traditional tiara shape. She's even worn one of the crosses as a brooch. It shows a queen who isn't afraid to experiment with historic pieces to make them work for her. And then there is a much smaller, almost ethereal piece from Queen Maud's collection, the Vift tiara. Vift is the Norwegian word for fan, and the name perfectly describes its delicate, fan-like shape. For a long time, it was thought to have been an 18th birthday gift to Maud from her grandmother, Queen Victoria. But recent research has revealed a different story. It was actually a wedding gift from the Rothschild family, who were close friends of her father. This tiny tiara, composed of delicate diamond floral elements, is incredibly versatile. It can be worn as a small tiara, as Maud and Sonja have done, or it can be converted into a beautiful necklace. When Crown Prince Haakon married Mette-Marit Tjessem-Højby in 2001, Sonja passed this historic jewel on to her new daughter-in-law. Mette-Marit wore it as a necklace on the eve of her wedding, and it's a piece she has worn several times since. But Maud's legacy wasn't just in tiaras. She also brought with her one of the most fashionable and personal styles of jewelry from her mother's era, the choker. And she owned a particularly lovely example, Queen Alexandra's diamond link choker. This piece, a series of intersecting diamond links which are mounted on a velvet band, came directly from her mother. In fact, Queen Alexandra is the person largely credited with popularizing the dog collar choker style in the late Victorian and Edwardian eras. It's said she wore them to elegantly cover a small scar on her neck, and in doing so, created an international fashion trend. So, when Maud inherited this piece, she inherited a part of her mother's iconic style. But fashions changed dramatically, and for decades after Maud's time, the choker remained unseen in the vaults, a relic of a bygone era. It wasn't until the 1980s that it reemerged, and it was revived by none other than Queen Sonja. She brought the choker back into the spotlight, and today, it has become one of her own trademark pieces. It's a wonderful example of how a jewel can fall asleep for generations, only to be awakened and given new life by a new royal lady with her own distinct sense of style. Maud's legacy also included some smaller but equally significant jewels that filled out the collection beautifully. One of the most historically important is the Draper's Company brooch. This was another of her wedding gifts, a stunning diamond and pearl scroll brooch from the Draper's Company, one of London's ancient guilds. It was clearly a piece she treasured, as she was often photographed wearing it alongside her pearl tiara. For decades after her death, it remained tucked away, but it has since re-emerged and become a favorite of Queen Sonja, a beautiful link to both Queen Maud and British tradition. And remember those magnificent diamond pendant earrings I mentioned earlier, the ones Sonja often pairs with Queen Josephine's tiara? They also have a direct connection to Queen Maud's mother, Queen Alexandra. While their earliest history is debated, we know that by the 1880s, Alexandra, then Princess of Wales, began wearing a pair of very similar diamond pendants suspended from her grand diamond necklaces. It was a clever way to add even more glamour to an already impressive look. After Queen Alexandra's death, these pendants were among the jewels inherited by her daughter, Princess Victoria. Now, Victoria was known to have disposed of many of her mother's jewels, but thankfully, these survived. She left them to her nephew, Crown Prince Olav of Norway, and they have been a cherished part of the Norwegian collection ever since. Crown Princess Martha wore them in some of her most memorable post-war portraits, and they have been a staple for Queen Sonja since she joined the family, a perfect complement to the grandest tiaras in the vault. There are other, more mysterious pieces from this era as well. A delicate diamond filigree brooch with a design that dates it to the early 20th century is almost certainly from Queen Maud's collection, though its exact origins are unknown. Queen Sonja has worn it beautifully in her hair for formal events, and she has also loaned it to both her daughter and daughter-in-law. And then there's a lovely brooch with diamonds and dark blue sapphires, which has a truly grand provenance. It was a wedding gift to Maud in 1896 from Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra of Russia. It's a piece Sonja often wears on Norway's National Day, the blue sapphires echoing the color of the Norwegian flag. So, for decades, Sonja wore these jewels with grace and confidence. She moved seamlessly between the French imperial heirlooms and the British treasures of Queen Maud, making them her own. The collection was complete, historic, and seemingly secure. And then, in 1995, the unthinkable happened. In February 1995, the royal family sent a few pieces, including Queen Maud's pearl tiara, to the Crown Jewellers, Garrard, in London. This was a completely routine process for cleaning, maintenance, and valuation. The jewels were in the hands of the most trusted firm in the business, but on what should have been an ordinary day, 3 armed robbers, one disguised as a policeman, walked into the Garrard workshop on Regent Street in broad daylight and simply took them. The news was a profound shock. That beloved tiara, the one given to Queen Maud by her royal parents, the one Sonja had worn as one of her signature pieces for nearly 30 years, it was gone, vanished without a trace, never to be recovered. The loss of such a significant piece of Norwegian and British royal history was heartbreaking. And it wasn't the only historic piece lost that day. Also among the stolen items was a charming and unique jewel known as the Oslo Fjord bracelet. It held a special place in the family's modern history. It was a gift to Crown Princess Martha back in 1949 from the Norwegian America shipping line to thank her for christening their new ship, the Oslo Fjord. It was a beautiful band of delicate seed pearls with a striking square emerald and diamond clasp. Crown Princess Martha had worn it with her grand emeralds, and a young Crown Princess Sonja, in one of her earliest displays of creative flair, had actually worn this bracelet as a small, chic tiara for a gala banquet shortly after her wedding in 1968. That piece, with its unique connection to Norway's maritime heritage and to her late mother-in-law, was also taken in the robbery. And then there was a third, almost secret loss, a tiara the public had never even seen on a Norwegian royal. According to research by the historian Trond Noren Isaksen, King Harald and Queen Sonja had recently acquired another historic tiara, one that had originally belonged to Queen Sofia of Sweden and Norway. It was a beautiful parure of what were described as pale rubies, but are now believed to be pink topazes. It had passed from Queen Sofia down through a different branch of the family, the Bernadotte af Wisborgs, and had been worn by Countess Estelle Bernadotte for many years. The Norwegian royals had purchased the parure to bring this historic heirloom back into a main royal line. Tragically, it was stolen from Garrard before Queen Sonja ever had the chance to wear it publicly. So, in one afternoon, the Norwegian royal collection suffered an almost unimaginable blow. 3 historic pieces, one a beloved signature tiara, one a versatile personal jewel, and one a lost treasure that never even had its moment in the spotlight, had vanished. The loss was immense. The original jewels were gone forever. The question was, what would they do now? The answer came, not with despair, but with remarkable resilience. As a profound apology for the devastating security breach, Garrard was commissioned to do what it does best: recreate history. A new version of Queen Maud's pearl tiara was meticulously crafted. Using detailed photographs and their own extensive archives, the jewelers produced a faithful replica of the lost treasure. It was designed to be just as versatile as the original, able to be worn in its full, grand setting, or as the more delicate pearl fringe. And so, a little over a year after the theft, Queen Maud's tiara, or at least its spirit, was back, once again taking its place as one of the mainstays of the collection. A replica of the charming Oslofjord bracelet was also made, ensuring its unique story would not be lost to history. And this raises a fascinating question, one that I often find myself pondering when I look at these jewels. How do we view these replicas? On one hand, they are not the original artifacts. The very diamonds and pearls that Queen Maud touched, the exact clasp gifted to Crown Princess Martha, are gone forever. These new pieces are, in a sense, beautiful ghosts, echoes of a lost history. But, on the other hand, by recreating them, the royal family made a powerful statement. They chose to continue the story, to carry the memory and the visual legacy forward. The design lives on, reminding us of the original's importance. It's a complex and personal thing, isn't it? What matters more, the physical object or the history it represents? But the story doesn't end with replicas. The insurance settlement from the theft provided an opportunity, not just to replace what was lost, but to add something new. And it's here, in the ashes of that loss, that we see the collection begin to reflect Queen Sonja's personal taste even more directly. It's widely believed by jewelry historians that the insurance money was used to acquire a brand new suite of jewels, the Norwegian Amethyst Parure. This magnificent set, consisting of an impressive necklace that can be mounted on a frame to be worn as a tiara, along with coordinating earrings, 2 bracelets, and a brooch, made its first public appearance in 1997. The provenance of the parure itself is unknown. It is an antique piece, but its history before joining the Norwegian collection has never been shared. Queen Sonja wore it on a handful of occasions, but then, in a beautiful gesture of welcome and continuity, she passed the entire parure to her new daughter-in-law,
Crown Princess Mette-Marit,
around the time of the birth of Princess Ingrid Alexandra in 2004.
It has since become one of Mette-Marit's most worn and recognizable pieces.
Another beautiful suite also entered the collection around this time, a stunning set of emerald beads. It includes a lush 3-strand necklace with 2 elegant Art Deco diamond clasps and a pair of dramatic emerald bead tassel earrings. This set has a fascinating bit of its own history. The necklace is known to have been loaned to the Duchess of Kent for an event in the early 1990s, suggesting it was acquired from a jeweler's existing stock, likely Garrard's. Unlike the grand Napoleonic emeralds, which are reserved for the most formal white tie events, Queen Sonja often chooses this emerald bead suite for black tie occasions, like the Nobel Peace Prize galas. It's a slightly less formal but equally glamorous option. So, while the theft was a tragedy, it also became a catalyst for renewal. It demonstrated a remarkable pragmatism. The family lost priceless, irreplaceable history, but they ensured its memory lived on through faithful copies. And it was in this period of recreation that a new, truly unique, and very personal chapter began for the royal vaults, one that would reflect Queen Sonja's own modern style, a mark made not of inherited diamonds, but of contemporary Norwegian gold. For her 60th birthday in 1997, King Harald gave her a gift that was a complete departure from anything else in the collection, the modern gold tiara. It was a brand new commission from the king to his wife, and significantly, it was designed and made in Norway by the jeweler Millie Behrens, reportedly with a great deal of input from the queen herself, making it the only truly Norwegian-made tiara in the family's possession. The design itself is a statement. A sweep of curved yellow gold strips set with tiny diamonds. It's bold, architectural, and unapologetically modern. But this is Queen Sonja we're talking about, a woman of great pragmatism and style, so of course, it's also incredibly versatile. The tiara has 3 interchangeable central elements that she can swap out to coordinate with different jewels and gowns, one with a large green tourmaline, another with fiery orange topazes, and a third set simply with gold and larger diamonds. It is so striking and unconventional that it's earned an affectionate nickname among royal watchers, the Wonder Woman tiara. And in a way, that name fits. It represents her confidence, her forward-looking vision, and her identity not just as a queen, but as a modern Norwegian woman. It was a clear signal that the collection was no longer just about preserving the past, but also about embracing the present. And that desire to celebrate Norwegian identity in her jewelry continued. For her 75th birthday, she received another deeply personal gift, a suite of gold and peridot jewelry. Made by the Oslo jeweler Bugge and Othen, this set is Norwegian to its very core. The gold itself was sourced from the Norwegian town of Hamar, and the beautiful green peridots come from a place called Aheim on the country's northwest coast. It's a quiet and elegant suite, but its meaning is immense. It shows that the royal collection is not a static museum. It is a living, breathing thing, still growing, still acquiring new pieces and new stories that are rooted, quite literally, in the soil of Norway itself. And so, when you look at this collection as a whole, from the imperial emeralds and the British diamonds to the modern Norwegian gold, you begin to see the full picture of the woman who wears them. Queen Sonja's approach to these jewels is unlike anyone else's. Her journey, from the girl who wore a simple floral wreath on her wedding day to the queen presiding over this incredible treasure trove of history, is truly one for the books. Each piece tells a story of survival, of love, of loss, and of renewal, but taken together they tell her story. She can appear one night in the magnificent Napoleonic emeralds, steeped in 2 centuries of history, and the next in that unapologetically modern gold tiara. There aren't many queens who navigate that spectrum with such ease and confidence. And for me, that's what makes her so fascinating to watch. It's that confidence to stand by her choices, whether it's preserving a historic piece or commissioning a new one that might raise a few eyebrows. I'm always so curious what people really think of a piece like the modern gold tiara. Is it a triumph of contemporary design, a bold statement for a modern monarchy? Or do you feel it's out of place among the great historic heirlooms? Thank you so much for joining me today to explore this remarkable collection. I hope you enjoyed diving into these stories as much as I did. If you did, I would be so grateful if you would consider subscribing to the channel for more journeys into the royal jewel vaults. I look forward to seeing you again next time.